In our previous video, we talked about how to move around within Excel. So now that we know how to navigate and use the arrow keys, the tab and enter keys, and the mouse to select different cells and to navigate around the screen, let's go ahead and practice entering some information. So in this one, I'm just going to enter in some simple information into a table, and then we'll talk about those different pieces of information in more detail and also talk about how to make them look better, what types of formatting we can use, and so on. So to start with here, I need some row labels. In this case, I'm going to enter in the names of some associates. So first I'll put Jill, and I hit the enter key, and that moves me down a row like we talked about before. Next, I'm going to put in Jorge and hit enter. And finally, I'll do Hillary, and I'm going to use the down arrow key just to show you that either one works. Now, if I want to come up here and start entering in my column labels, I'm just going to use the mouse and click in cell B3, and I can start typing in more text. Manager, and then I have hourly rate and hire date. Now, what I was just doing there that you may or may not have noticed was I was moving from one column to the next. And if you remember from our last video, we can do that one of two ways with the keyboard, and that's either using the right arrow or the tab key. And what's nice is when I'm using the tab key like I just did to move to the right in a consistent pattern. So I move from B to C to D, move through those columns using the tab key. When I get to the end of my table and I want to return to the beginning, I can just hit the enter key, and it not only moves me down a row, but it resets to the beginning column in my table. I like to think of it as similar to using a typewriter, when you would get to the end of the line and hit the return key, and it would return back to the left-hand side. That's essentially what's happening here, but it only works as long as we keep a pattern going with the tab key. If I was to change, let's say here as I'm entering in Jill's information, I'll put David as her manager, tab, hourly rate 9.5. And now if I use the down arrow to come down here and enter in Jorge's manager as Joseph, and then I come up here to hire date and do 10/4/2011, you'll notice that when I hit the enter key, it doesn't recognize the pattern. Instead, it just drops me down one row like normal. So we have to use the tab key consistently for it to recognize the pattern, but it's very quick and easy. I'm going to write over this just so we can pick up the pattern again here. So manager, I'm going to do Kim, hourly rate $10. And we'll do 10/6/2011. So you can see it's very quick. As long as I'm using the tab key and I hit enter, I can enter in many rows of information very quickly as long as I keep that pattern consistent. So we'll stop there just because that's a good amount of information. But you can see that I've entered in text, I've entered in numbers including decimal places, and we've even used slashes to create dates. And we'll talk about dates in more detail because they're a very interesting feature within Excel. And we'll also go over in the next video some of the other components that go along with entering information in cells as far as what am I really doing? What am I entering when I'm typing in a cell?